So I want to tell you a little bit about TalentCheetah. Most of you that are on this call are cheetahs, are members of our community. Some of you that are on our call are friends and family of TalentCheetah. But just so that just so I can give you a full picture of who TalentCheetah is and what we're all about, we are a digital talent marketplace that helps businesses find and hire project program and product management experts. 80% of us in TalentCheetah are PMP certified. And the way TalentCheetah is different than other recruitment places is that we focus exclusively on project program and product management. And we offer part-time, full-time, temporary, and permanent placement. We're not like your other recruiters that have that they're looking for placing a full-time person. We have 130 plus. I think as of yesterday, we were up to 132 cheetahs and a bunch of companies that hire them. We're cheetah fast. We have, as I mentioned, 80% of us have our PMP certifications. And lastly, we're agile, very agile, as I said, part-time, full-time, on-site, hybrid, and remote. So that's all about TalentCheetah. Now I'd like to tell you about our guest speaker. We're very honored, and thank you very much, Snehal, for doing this for us. Snehal brings a wealth of experience with him. He has expertise in enterprise coaching, change management, and emerging technologies to guide organizations through digital transformation. He has a lot of capabilities. He's very much a subject matter expert in the AI space. And if you look at his website, you can see that he has the moniker of the AI Agile guy. So he's all about AI, he's all about Agile, and he's a very engaging keynote speaker. So with that said, Snehal, I'll turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff, for that introduction. I will caveat, I consider myself no expert. I'm a continuous learner, and I continuously learn and share as much information as possible so we all can grow together and transform together. So thanks for Jeff for having me, TalentCheetah, the entire team for having me here today. So first off, I love to make my sessions really interactive. I want to get to learn more about the audience. So if you have a phone in your hand, you can scan the QR code, or you can visit slido.com and enter the code 3382185. And we're going to start off the question by, what are you most excited to learn about today? I'll give it a minute. Hopefully, poll is active. There you go. I love it here in the chat. Get to know how to do coding with AI. Absolutely, we can cover that as well. Show you some neat tricks and tips on how that we can do that. All right, give it a minute or two. Really appreciate you guys engaging. Awesome. So I'm going to read some out loud. So how GenAI can make routine project management tasks easier, efficiencies to gain with AI, the use of AI in PM, AI in project managers, AI in project delivery, how AI can help or automate some mundane tasks, leveraging AI. So you're in the right spot. All of these questions we'll answer today. We'll go through some. So the way I like to present is I have some slides, but towards the end, I'm going to get hands-on and I'm going to show you some tools on how you can leverage it right outside of this workshop, give you a preview of what you can do when you leave this today and start thinking on how to leveraging generative AI into your PM day-to-day tasks. So my next question is, and I love this question because I ask this question in every single talk. Tomas can probably allude to this, but I've been all over the world, and this question is my favorite question to ask: is what type of AI have you used? So just in general, what type of AI have you interacted with in the recent years? And I'll tell you in just a moment why this is my favorite question. And I appreciate that participating here as well. So I see folks are typing in the chat here. Fantastic. All right, so I'm just going to give it a chance here. If I had to predict, most of us are probably put ChatGPT. So ChatGPT, no doubt, ChatGPT, pretty much majority, I would say ChatGPT. But no, this list is growing, and I like to ask this question because as I would imagine as a futurist, as I ask this question over and over again in all my talks this year, things are going to change. ChatGPT is the #1 answer because November 2022, something pivotal happened and ChatGPT came out to the world. But that doesn't mean that ChatGPT started in November 2022. The back end of how transformer models were created, OpenAI existed way before then. It is because the user experience, we were able to bring the accessibility to everyone. And now everyone can interact with AI in a way that was not ever imaginable. So that's why we hear ChatGPT when we say AI. But I love the choices here. I see ClickUp, Otter.ai, Copilot, Gemini, and who knows, we might see new names as we go along this journey. So awesome. Thank you so much for participating. This is really helpful. So I'd like to play a video. This is from Davos, from Andrew Ying. And I'm going to share here a resource that I encourage everyone to look at. It's deeplearning.ai. Andrew Ying is a co-founder of Coursera and also founder of deeplearning.ai. I had a pleasure to meet him several times in San Francisco, but he said something at Davos that I think is really important. Let's listen in.
Can't hear the sound, or I can't hear the sound.
Apologies for that. Let me see if I can change that. Does anyone? Let's see.
Yeah, I can't hear the sound either.
Yeah, I can't hear the sound, but I can see the closed caption though.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I will just give you a preview of what that means, and I'll share the video after the link. Basically, the video is saying the key thing that Andrew Ying says, the #1 thing for enterprise to do is training and upskilling the workforce. And really, it's not about building bots or apps. If you want to get productivity gains really quickly, it's to adopt things like ChatGPT and generative AI and start using them to get, to build that trust and to be able to communicate with generative AI. And we'll talk about what generative AI means, what AI means, but I like to highlight and kick off any workshop that I do with that statement because it's really essential that we understand that. So the growth of AI, and this is something that one of my colleagues, Freedom Preetham, who I follow on LinkedIn, just had put up, and I thought this was really interesting, and I really like to bring this to emphasize the growth of AI. So let's dissect. We call this recursive exponential growth in AI. So what does that mean? As a futurist, I believe in this, that AI system can double performance every 6 months. And in 5 years, will be 1,000x more powerful than we are today. So this would outperform 1,000 GPT-4 models combined. And this acceleration is unlike any prior innovation that we've ever seen. And to me, even though I'm a futurist and I make predictions, my prediction 5 years out will most likely not hold true if we're at this current pace. It is innovation that we as humans can't really understand or grasp. And that's why it's important for us to realize that things are going to change. Even today, as I speak, there's a lot of things throughout this talk that could definitely change by next week. And that's the pace of innovation that we're going in. So it's really important. I always like to put this out ahead of time, that the growth of AI is it's not just exponential, it's recursive exponential growth that we are seeing that's happening. And I'll allude to why and what you're hearing in even the mainstream media that supports this fact that we are seeing this type of growth. So I like to start off with the news. This was latest and greatest. AI predicts Alzheimer's 7 years early. Just to show you that capable machine learning models, this was just announced today. But they're news every single time I try to give this slide. I try to come up with some new snapshots. But over time, I learned that doing that just didn't make sense, because there's like a news that's breakthrough news like every single hour or by the minute. So I just like to show the pace. All of these graphs that you see might be small to see, but each of these is something that was released in 1 week's worth of time. So all of this, so for example, this was again, in 1 week, we had ChatGPT meet DALL-E, we had open source rival to multimodal ChatGPT, Google's answer to Duolingo, Google's vision language model, large language models extend memory like PCs, 4D rendering in 4K, AI factories for autonomous vehicles. So the list goes on. And this was actually captured months ago. But the reason I showed these graphics is to show and the emphasis on the things that AI is bringing, like on a week-to-week basis. So for example, last week, we saw NVIDIA release RTX, which is personalized language models on the computer, on their machine. That was released by NVIDIA. We also had Google Gemini announced the same week. This is in 3 days worth of span. Gemini 1.5. And then we also had OpenAI come with Sora, which is their text to video model that went viral. And again, in the span of just 3 days. So showing you the emphasis of the growth on how AI is progressing. So again, news everywhere. New study on coding behavior raises questions. So I like to take a balance, because I think there's also important things to discuss of the ethical concerns and how this impacts software. OpenAI signs up first higher education customer, Arizona State University. I think education is starting to come along. We're seeing the education space move a little bit towards now embracing generative AI. Oracle embeds generative AI across their tech stack to enable enterprise AI adoption at scale. 2024, we said the year would be of AI assistance, but I think we're moving past that, and I'll tell you why later throughout in the presentation. Our next generation model, Gemini 1.5, like I said, was announced just last week, and with that we had Sora. And Huawei researchers are saying giving AI, can't read that real quick. Let me just see what that headline was. So many headlines. Okay, so Huawei researchers say giving AI a body is the next step towards human level agents. So this is Huawei is a firm in China, and they're doing studies, and they have released that. That was a new headline just last week. So having a body, the researchers argue, will allow AI to understand action, memory, and experience better. So again, moving away from, moving away from just language. We can now have large action models. If you guys have noticed, ChatGPT included a new feature breakthrough that it is incorporating memory. So your interactions can be stored in memory, and ChatGPT can remember the way you would interact with it to kind of give you the responses in the way you would prefer it. So they're piloting that. It's a beta feature that was released last week.
Snehal, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we have a question from Mary Strudwick.
Yeah.
Mary, go
Hi,
ahead.
not to slow your roll here, but I just to comment on how quickly all of this is progressing. In the past, projections of what the future would look like and how quickly it would look that way were overly optimistic. So what is the reason for more optimism now? Because we've missed this. Like, I'm thinking back to, back in, what was it, the 60s, George Jetson, the predictions of what life would be like, in 2020, in the 21st century. We haven't quite hit all that yet, all that technology. What is the reason for this accelerated pace, do you think?
Yeah, no, that's a great question.
Yeah.
That's a great question. And I think the acceleration there's many factors, obviously, for this acceleration to happen. I think there's several geopolitical reasons as well. I think there's pressures, there are economical pressures that are driving innovation faster because, again, it's a competition globally. And I think also sci-fi movies, as much as you think, I attended a TED Talk, TED AI, last year in San Francisco, and we had one speaker talk through how movies actually are encouraging this optimism behavior. Like what we see in movies is becoming reality in some aspects. Movies give a lot of innovation to technology. If you actually go back and look at all of the movies that are picturized on futuristic technologies, in some shape or form, they have been built, which is interesting.
Actually, yes, Star Trek is a perfect example.
Yes.
Starting with this 60s series, I think the only thing we don't have right now is possibly warp drive and teleportation.
Yeah, so no, I agree, but just to give you a little bit of insight on, it is, the optimism comes from, I have never seen innovation grow this fast at this pace, right? And it's interesting, but at the same time, I think a lot of the movies that I've seen kind of have alluded us to this space. And there's definitely studies on that too. I'm more than happy to share some papers on that, where human behavior is driven by what we see. And sometimes it is those things that we keep hearing and we keep seeing, and that repetitive nature that keeps us pushing towards boundaries like this.
I think I agree with you. And I think there's another thing too. There's usually a pivotal technology that leads to, and sorry to make you pause your presentation, and I was late. But there's usually a pivotal technology that sort of, bursts the dam, if you will. And we can go back to the 19th century, to the invention of the combustion engine.
Yep.
Splitting the atom. There are other pivotal events, the internet, moving from the ARPANET to the internet, and what that did. And all the predictions that came at about the time the internet was unleashed on the world about how it would change life. Some things came true and some things didn't. So anyway, yeah, it's just interesting. I still think it's.
I appreciate the question and the curiosity there. Andrew Ying says, and I compare it to the internet, right? AI is the new internet. And if we think of it in that construct, right, it's like we are now in this era of building, right? And it's like when the internet came out, people started building, but didn't see a lot of things until years after the effect of what the internet could actually do. And we're in the same, I think.
I'll stop derailing you. Just a last comment, which is, I think this is a big experiment. Yes, it's here to stay. This is the same conversation I had with somebody at one of the big major New York ad agencies. about the internet. Yes, it's here to stay, but it's still a big experiment. We're still figuring it out. We've got all kinds of issues like copywriting issues, privacy. It's still a lot, and accuracy. But yeah. Anyway, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you. All right. So moving around, U.S. tech adoption, kind of going along those lines. We saw the internet. We've seen the smartphones. This is another. It's a study. Actually, a report done by Cotu, and more than happy to share this as well. But just to show AI is that hockey stick projection, right? We have not seen the past waves of emerging technologies be at the rate of what AI is showing us today. In terms of AI surpassing human parity, AI has shown that it can recognize and understand a lot of subject areas better than we can. And it has actually passed human parity in many different sectors. So we've seen image recognition, and I'll show you an example of that. Reading comprehension, code generation has been on the rise, and these are all, again, hockey stick projections that we're seeing, and it continues to we are seeing new use cases being adopted as well in a lot of the research that's being done today. So again, just to show you how quickly these models are reaching human level accuracy. And that's a key thing to understand, because I am an advocate of avoiding the Turing trap. Even though we compare artificial intelligence to human intelligence. If anyone's familiar with Alan Turing, and I'll give you a little bit of background, Alan Turing is the one who created the Turing test in the 50s to kind of measure artificial intelligence to human intelligence, right? So that was a test that was done to see if AI, but to me, I'm a big advocate of Eric Bernefison from Stanford. I definitely encourage you guys to read this book. This was pre-ChatGPT, but Machine Platform Crowd. But he talks about why it's important to test a machine's ability to exhibit intelligent behavior without comparing it to the human. And avoiding this Turing trap, because judging an AI system solely based on it's able to mimic human conversation can think that it's too human-like. But if we actually open up our mindset and avoid this Turing trap, right? I don't mention here, but Mustafa Suleiman, who's wrote this book called The Coming Wave, he says we need a new Turing test. And his Turing test is, can we get AI to generate money? Can it actually make money for us? And if it can, then that's his way of saying that that's the new Turing test, which I'm in the belief. I don't think the Turing test as it was created in the 50s stands today, because there are AI capabilities that have surpassed humans, and to compare it to human-like intelligence just doesn't make sense. So focuses too much on the human likeness rather than the usefulness. It risks in overestimating system capabilities based on a limited test, and distracts from developing AI that is ethical, aligned with human values, and benefiting society. So I think it's important that we avoid the Turing trap at all costs. That's something that a lot of researchers have focused on, but that is one thing that I believe in, that we shouldn't compare AI to human intelligence, because it kind of defeats it. We as humans overlook and always will compare AI to us in that aspect. And I'll tell you why in an example when we discuss later. Where the world is moving, I live in a bubble sometimes. I travel to San Francisco a lot, but San Francisco is living in the AI wearables piece. Now we've kind of surpassed the generative AI phase. We're trying to figure out how we can incorporate multimodal AI straight into these AI wearable devices. When it comes to concepts of responsible AI, I think it's really important. I like that the question that was proposed there. It's really important as we get in it, and I say this because digital trust is a key thing. World Economic Forum just created a digital trust framework, and more than happy to share the link there. It's in my separate talk that I talk about that. But as we move into this world of AI wearables, I remember when Google Glass first came out and everyone thought it was a privacy concern. But now today we have the Apple Vision Pro and everyone is wearing it, and it has 9 cameras on the front of it. and and we're not saying anything, right? We're not. The times are different. The adoption of this technology has come to the point where we have surpassed, in some ways, I feel, and it's interesting because human behavior is different based on the times that we're in. And so the times that we're in now, I think we're more receptive to the fact, maybe it's just San Francisco and Silicon Valley, but this is where, so what you see here is this is a Humane AI pin founded by a former Apple executive. These are all AI-powered devices, by the way. This is the Rewind template pendant, which records your day-to-day actions so you can recall what you've done. This is the Rabbit R1 device. So this is, again, fine-tuned with AI, and Perplexity, I think, has partnered with them in terms of that. Obviously, Meta's Ray-Ban glasses are a multimodal factor of using Meta's open source AI. And this I'm really excited about. This is Brilliant Labs multimodal first open source AI glasses that people can buy and experiment with. Also former Apple executive or Apple employee. So both of these are former Apple employees that have ventured out and created new products. Now this brings me to AI basics. So I think it's really important to understand the next few slides, as even if you're a project manager or any role that you play. What is AI? So AI refers to the simulation of human intelligence in machines enabling them to perform tasks that are typically require human intelligence. There are a couple of types of AI. There's narrow AI, which is specialized in one task, which means you've already used this before, because if you've used Alexa, you've used Echo, or you've used Google Home, and you've talked to Siri, those are all narrow AI. Some of them are bound to change now because they're going to start using generative AI. But then we all have general AI, which is intelligence comparable to human abilities, and then super intelligent AI, which is surpassing the human intelligence, also known as artificial superintelligence. But core concepts when it comes to AI, it's not just generative AI. Generative AI is just one little dot. It's machine learning, neural networks, deep learning, and natural language processing. So these are different types of concepts within the AI umbrella. So the evolution of AI, starting from the 50s, the Turing test, the 80s, expert systems, 2000s, we had machine learning, and today, 2010 and present, we talk about deep learning and neural networks. And the current state is AI is now part of everything that we do, whether you know it or whether you don't. There is AI that you're using. So if you're watching Netflix, there's AI that is learning your patterns, learning. It's not generative AI in some aspects, it could be machine learning, but you are exposed to AI on a day-to-day basis. It is something that is inevitable, in my opinion, because I think everything that we're doing today will involve some sort of AI. Ethical and responsible AI. I think this is another slide I think is really important. The practices, the principles that are really important to understand when it comes to ethical and responsible AI is transparency, accountability, fairness, privacy, and challenges. These are 5 areas that we are still in the AI community still trying to figure out. You just probably heard Google Gemini shut down their images because it was giving, kind of racial profiling when asked to generate images. So that gives you a sense of that we're still trying to solve certain problems and certain challenges that nonetheless, I think it will be resolved. It is just having the conversation, and things arise, we can then tackle that particular situation. So in that case, Google responded by shutting down the image services to look deeper into it, which I think is the case for anything that violates these principles, right? We want to have an honest and transparent conversation. I think a lot of the states have stepped in. I know state governors have put on AI task force for certain states to kind of bring in the dialogue and bring in some actionable items. I know our government with all of, I know EU and Europe has done a fantastic job of understanding how to enforce certain AI ethics and AI principles in that aspect. And I hope the world will follow. The communications are happening worldwide. So I want to kind of caveat, if anyone's concerned about the ethical and responsible AI usage, trust me, The entire world is having this conversation. There's a global conversation happening, and big players are at the table discussing this day in and day out. It is not, I don't think anyone's avoiding it, but at the same time, we're also pushing the innovation boundaries as much as we can, at least from the experience and the interactions that I've had with people that are leading this effort. Data privacy and ownership with AI. I think this is a critical question. I kind of have to deal with this on a day-to-day basis with our clients for our companies. It's like, if you build them a chatbot, who actually owns the data, right? So is it the foundational model that you use on the cloud? Is it you because you're creating the data? Or if you're building a new model, is it the company that gave you the data that owns the data if you're training a model? And if you want to then reuse that model, who does the accreditation go to? So again, this is something that we're still figuring out. I don't think there's a silver bullet answer. All depends on the context. But key privacy considerations. AI apps can access extensive personal data. We've seen that. So be vigilant when you use any tools. Review permissions carefully before allowing access. Understand how your data will be used. And then for data ownership considerations, users typically own the inputs and outputs, but commercial use rights may vary. So check the permissions. If you are not aware, you can always email the people who are building these apps and kind of give them, shoot them an email and ask them specific questions. And if you're unclear if if your user data is training their model, seek the clarification, right? Don't be foolish enough to share your private information because it will get leaked, and we've seen many leaks. I have also exposed many leaks. So advocate for transparency in that model training, or if you're using a closed source model, make sure that you have these privacy safeguards in place. Just like I would say, example, when we started seeing email, there were spam, but we figured out as humans how to deal with spam, right? There's a human construct in figuring out how I'm going to deal with spam messages, phishing messages. Same thing applies here. The human guardrails have to be in place. But in order to do that, you have to have the understanding of how AI really works. So here's the overview of AI. What companies think AI looks like. Everyone thinks that there's some sort of data. I train my model, I get AI, I build AI, and I get some value out of it. But in all honesty, this is what AI actually looks like. So the data has to be selected, it has to be sourced, it has to be synthesized. But in terms of AI, you also have data engineering and you have modeling. So you have exploration, cleaning of that, normalizing that data, building features for data features for that, scaling your data lakes, understanding that from a data engineering standpoint. Then you have the modeling. Which model are you going to select? How much training are you going to do? What's the computational energy that's going to be spent on that? Evaluation, fine-tuning that data. And then obviously the value. The value is not received until something like ChatGPT comes out, right? I mean, GPT still existed before ChatGPT came out. But again, how do I push this model now into production where you have the registration, the deployment, the monitoring, and retraining, right? How do I understand that value being generated from the modeling aspect of it? So the pushing it into production kind of deal. So, but nonetheless, it's still anchored by constraints, right? So we still have legal, we still have ethical transparency, and we still have historical bias, and we still have security concerns. So these are important. And I think Johnson from NVIDIA said it the best. He said, there's not going to be a need for AI all-rounders. If you're building an AI in an enterprise, you're going to have AI expertise at every vertical here, right? So those people are going to lead those verticals. So as a project manager, it's probably going to be important to understand that when enterprises figure this out, if you're working in an AI-driven company or building an AI product, that it's important to understand that you're going to have resources that should be at each vertical. You're not going to have horizontal AI people. It's not possible, right? The depth and breadth of AI is too vast that you can't have everyone, like one AI person doing everything, right? It's just not possible. So just like to share this overview of AI. Foundational AI concepts. I talked about the whole umbrella of artificial intelligence, but AI, this is the AI onion. You have AI, you have machine learning, and you have deep learning. And within this deep learning, you have the dot or little bubble of generative AI. So the difference is there is a, sometimes people used to say AI, ML kind of together. And that's actually, you should know the distinction, it's separate, right? So AI is the ability of machine to imitate human intelligence, but machine learning are algorithms to incorporate intelligence into machine by automatically learning from the data, looking at patterns, right? So it's actually algorithms that are there. Deep learning are algorithms that mimic human brain to incorporate intelligence into a machine, right? So the concept of neural networks. So that is a key understanding that all three areas are actually different when we refer to them in terms of terminology. So how I'm going to extrapolate and really make this basic. I have an entire textbook on neural networks if anyone's interested in math, but I don't want to bore you to death. So I'm going to give you a simple understanding of how neural networks work with this piece. So when I say the sky is, let's just, for example, let's just actually disregard the is. Let's just say that I say the word the sky. If I just say the words the sky, anyone can come off of mute. But what would be the next word that you would predict without actually thinking about it? I just said the sky.
Blue.
So you would say the sky blue, or
Sky is blue.
you would say is, right? So you didn't have to think about that. And the reason is it's how our brains are actually wired. We use the concepts of neural networks. It's training, right? You've seen that phrase so many times that it's all the generative AI piece is doing is it's just predicting the next word. And if I get sophisticated, there are weights associated with the signal. So when I say the sky, there's a heavy signal associated that propagates me to that word is, right? And most majority, 99.9% of the people will say the sky followed by is. Now, if I put it together, I say the sky is, right? Most likely you would say
Blue.
blue. Some people may say gray, some people may say something white. And if that's the case, we have to adjust our weights to propagate that signal to that particular word. But most of the times it depends on the training data. So a typical artificial neural network has 3 layers. It has an input layer, which is where your signal comes in. You have your hidden layer where the algorithm actually does its magic, right? That's the hidden layer. And then you get an output. But it's all predicated on weights. And you'll hear this all the time. It's like, what are the weights associated with that model when it was trained on that data? And I'm not going to get too technical, but there's a lot of math associated with that. This is an example of a forward propagation network, basically emphasizing the idea that all ChatGPT is technically doing is it's just predicting that next word with what it's trained on. So when I say the sky is, it will most likely say it's blue. So to teach that, I'm going to show you a real quick example of, oops. I'm going to show you how neural networks work with a picture example. I'm going to do a standard image model. Hopefully you guys can still see my screen.
Yes.
I'm going to open up the webcam here. So I have a phone here. And so I'm going to train this model. Look how this is kind of arranged. This is a artificial neural network. This is my input layer. This is my hidden layer. And this is going to be my output layer. And we're going to train, and I'm going to show you just in just a couple of seconds here what this means. So I'm training my model on my phone. I'm showing it pictures of my phone. I've got 135 images that I created. And I also have a marker here. So I'm going to call this my phone. And I'm going to call this my marker. And I'm going to train this to say it's a marker. And I'm going to show it in different ways. It sees my face as well. but I have almost 135, 137 images. I'm going to train the model. So let's see what happens. So it's preparing the training data. I took basically images as my data to be able to, and again, this is a high level extrapolation. Let's see if it, oh no, I broke the machine. Okay, so it is training. Let's see if, see if we can do this quickly. So what's happening is the weights are getting associated because we're going to then give it a signal. So now we're done. The model is trained. So now if I show the marker, it's going to be like it's a 100% marker, right? But if I show the phone, it should say it's a 100% phone, right? So the thing is, however, what happens if I show both of them, right, at the same time? Now notice that it's like it's almost confused. It doesn't know if it's the marker or if it's the phone. It's like spazzing out, if you will, right? And why is that? Because we haven't trained the model in that way. I haven't given it the edge cases. So I like to show this example because model training data is so important, right? If you had, it's like, for example, if you're training Teslas are training every day while on driving. But if I didn't have these edge cases, you know, what kind of, you know, the car might just crash because it hasn't seen that yet. So it's important that you understand that data is really important on how to train, you know, all of these models. So whether it be a vision model or a language model, it's important to make sure that the data is really crisp. So that's just a neat way to show if you're interested in showing others on how neural networks work. It's Google's Teachable Machine. And with that, I'm going to go back to our PowerPoint. And talk about what is generative AI. So as I mentioned, I'm not going to spend too much time, but generative AI is a subset of deep learning of AI that creates new content such as images, music, text, even video now, patterns from existing data, right? So I just want to make sure that you guys understand the nuances there. What are some use cases? So obviously you've seen content writing, chatbot Q&A. I think PMI has released PMI Infinity, which is a great start. Search, analysis, synthesis, and summarization. You have text to voice generation. You've seen that. Audio editing, image generation, voice translation. For code, we are seeing code generation, prototype design, just off of a graphic, data generation, data set generation, summarization, and review. And these are, again, just some. There are much more that are not on this slide. But operational, we've seen customer service review coaching, extract content from documents and other sources, and then summarize unstructured content. So I want to ask you, before we dive in, what are some use cases in project management that you can think of that can leverage generative AI? And if you can join the Slido, just scan the QR code or go to slido.com. Much appreciated if you can participate here. Offload mundane replicable tasks. Yes. And I will give you a preview of how you can get rid of some of those mundane replicable tasks. Scheduling, work breakdown. Love it though. Thank you. Predict future claims from RFI and correspondence. Love to use GPT with project charter drafting like SWOT risk for a given project brief. Fantastic. Input task, use AI to create interdependencies. Amazing. All right. Let's see what we got. So we have creation of project artifacts, weighted tables, risk register charters, marketing messages, updates for website landing page, budget risk and solutions, automate follow reminder emails, presentations of data, training videos with avatars, workflows, draft project plan, schedule, risk list status, automate project status reports. Perfect, right? So these are really good use cases, and I can tell you all of this can be done with the help of AI. So we're going to use a couple of things. I'm going to shift into that practical session in just a moment, but I want to show you some large language models, the engines I like to call it, that are available to us. So OpenAI, you guys are familiar with that because ChatGPT is probably the most used version of generative AI. We have Meta AI, which is open source. We have Anthropic, which has Claude. We have Bard, which is now Gemini. I need to update the slide here. But we also have Google's new open source model called Gemma. And Gemma is available at, I think, 7 billion parameters, I believe, as open source model from Google. We have Cohere, which is actually excellent enterprise LLM that has been used and curated for that piece of setting. We have, does anyone know what this is?
Grok.
Yes, Grok. X.AI from X, or what we call Twitter. So Grok is actually updating too. Grok is getting an update to 1.5. And then we have Falcon LLM, which is another open source model out of Dubai. Pretty significant big model as well. Many more models out there. Open source, closed source. Most of us are probably going to stick to using closed source unless you have a use case for open source. And I will share what you can do to use some open source models even without having to pay a dime. So again, it's really important that you understand that there are tons of models. I believe every model has its own character, right? So you talk to Grok versus you talk to Gemini, or you talk to ChatGPT, or you talk to Anthropic's Claude. They all have, to me, and maybe I'm just hallucinating as a human, but I feel like they have some characteristic, and you can tell because I've used them over and over again, that they have certain characteristics over each other. The future of human and AI dynamics. I'm going to talk about this because I like to mention this. This paper doesn't get a lot of talk, but this paper was actually created by Ilya Sutskever, who I have met, one of the co-founders of OpenAI, and I've heard him talk at TED.ai as well. Ilya Sutskever was a huge component of where OpenAI is today and is nowhere to be heard about now, which is interesting because he wrote this paper about super alignment and was published, I believe, in December or February of 2023. And he said 10 years from now, we will have AI that is super intelligent, and we will come across this problem of alignment. And so weak to strong generalization, eliciting strong capabilities with weak supervision. So what does this mean? So basically what this means is that where we are is we have humans that are training models, and traditional ML is that, right? We are, as humans, we are able to act as a supervisor to train the models that we train our AI on, right? And that's traditional machine learning, gathering the data, looking at patterns and identifying. But there's a point where we're coming to where AI actually knows a lot more. So training something that is now surpassed the human level is really, and that's where the super alignment problem comes into play. So I like to explain this as a child, when you're riding a bike, your parents are not there to tell you how to pedal. They're there for a scaffold, right? To kind of tell you how not to fall. And we're reaching a point, and if we get to this, what Ilya considers is that we will have to come to a point where we are able to have AI train AI, so that weak to strong generalization. So the weak AI is a scaffold for the student to be able to learn, right? And if we get to, we're not there at this point at the moment, but if we go at this pace, we will need something like this because we won't be able to be that scaffold, right? We can only do to a certain extent. So it's an interesting paper. I definitely would encourage you to read because it emphasizes the problem on super alignment and the weak to strong generalization. A little bit technical, but this is, I think, really gives us a signal of what it means to have this future human and AI dynamics as we go forward. So talking about forward, AI agents are going to be a thing. I'm going to share a couple of tools here. So AI agents are going to be able to do this in real time. Here you see an image of a basement with basically water. It's flooded. And you can now give ChatGPT-4 the image, and it'll tell you that the basement is severely flooded. The significant issue that requires immediate attention. But I want you to think about this and take this a step further. What if I was able to have one of my cameras in my garage send images every 15 minutes, and if something was bad, that I get a text message saying that, oh, there's something going on in your garage, and here's what it is, right? So with the key of automation and the key of understanding the capabilities of generative AI, there's so many things that you can put together to really get rid of those mundane tasks, if you will. So this is just an example, but where AI agents are headed is basically agentive framework. Agents can do this on their own. You'll have AIs being able to communicate with other AI, and we're already seeing that framework being implemented in a lot of tools, and I'll show you a couple of them. So I'm going to skip this question because I want to get to the crux of this. I have a slide on AI enterprise. We'll skip that. So let me just go straight to the demo. So I have here our tool, Agile GPT, and I'm going to demo this and I'm going to demo others. But we have Agile Coach, and I actually loaded a project manager today. But one thing that we're doing is we're trying to incorporate all these models that you can use. So I have Claude and I have some GPT models that you can use. And we'll use Claude to start off with. But anyone here have an example of what they would possibly ask or what they would want from AI? And I heard Project Charter. Maybe we can do that. So Thomas, I'm going to use your example of creating a project charter. Do you have a topic in mind or something that we can test? Chatbot. Okay, so you want a project charter for a chatbot. Okay. So we're going to ask, hi, can you help create a project charter for a chatbot? So this is a project manager specific. So again, project purpose, project justification, project goals. So let's read it. So the purpose of this project is to develop an intelligent conversational chatbot that can respond to common customer service queries. Let's see, the chatbot will be integrated into the company's website to provide 24/7 automated support. Project justification, provide quick answers to common questions. Project goals, timeline. So what do you guys think as a first pass, if I'm trying to do something like this, giving it a very simple prompt, was able to come up with project charter in what? How many seconds was that?
Yeah, so obviously it knows the structure of a project charter. It knows the elements of a project charter.
Yes. And so we've given that I've kind of curated this project manager just for this session today, but more than happy to, if someone is interested in fine tuning it, I'd love to kind of but this is an example of how quickly we can get these things and use it as a co-pilot to help you get your charter started. Now, I see there's a question. Darcy, you have your hand raised?
Hi, Snehal. Hi, TalentCheetah. Oh, let me get my camera. Thank you. Just very quickly, I'm working with a client right now to build their workflow out, an automated workflow for a web design company. And we're looking at he's on Basecamp and Trello and, all kinds of different, the tech stack is huge, but Harvest, but I'm looking at ClickUp. Is there any workflow automation designed in here?
Yeah, so we're in beta, and I'm launching beta users. That's in our roadmap to integrate. I can show you automations through Zapier. That's what we're trying to. We have that ability in our tests. We haven't pushed it to production yet, but if you're interested, I'm more than happy to connect. But that is the next phase of this, right? Is to set up these automations. From whatever tool, from this tool to something else. But I thought, okay, sorry, I thought this was a question to prompt the GPT, but I understand.
So now, how do we access your beta product?
So you can go to www.agilegpt.com, sign up for the wait list. We have so many people. We're trying to refine, but if you just message me on LinkedIn after you sign up, I can push you up the list as we roll this out. Our rollout strategy is kind of in chunks. We're not trying to roll this out to everyone just yet. So if you're interested and have a high keen interest, more than happy to share that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then I will show you guys the Zapier integrations that I have. That will be helpful. But again, I can communicate with this. Let's build on this example. Let's say I want cost, right? So let's say, okay, based off of this project charter, I need cost breakdown and timelines. Share with the customer. And we provide a report. So these are just estimated costs, right? So software developer salaries, 2 developers for 4 months, 80,000 check. So again, it's based off of data that's already there in Claude, but we can fine tune this to even take your data and understand any other additional sources that you might have. But the emphasis I have on this is really use this as a starting point. It's not perfect, right? There are probably nuances in this as well, but at least I have something. If I really quickly need to send something to the customer as a high level, I can really share something like this. The other piece that I will share is there are multiple tools out there that you can use for free. So my favorite is go to Google and type in Perplexity Playground. So this is a free tool from Perplexity Labs. Can you guys still see my screen?
Yes.
All right. So Perplexity Labs gives you the ability to interact with so many different models. These are all open source models. You have Llama, which is the biggest, I think 70 billion parameter token model. You have Code Llama. I know someone asked if they wanted to code. You can use, now, granted, it's not perfect. These are open source. There's no constraints. I wouldn't share any information that you don't want to share. But let's say I wanted to do that project charter with Gemma, which is Google's new open source model. This is free, by the way. So you can say, now notice that you're not going to get the same for a same thing because I had the project manager fine-tuned on the GPT Agile GPT side. So I'm curious to see what this would be. So this just gave me a bunch of things without actually formatting. It gave me a template that I could use to then fill out, right? Because I didn't give it any context. Mm-hmm. So the thing about prompting is that you probably heard this too, that prompting is still something that lives today. And it's important that you curate the prompt and you ask what you want to ask. And there's a particular framework I think that you want to use when creating prompts is give it the context, give it the ask, and give it the output you're looking for. It's really important that you structure your prompts in that way because half the time, I feel like people use it once or twice, it doesn't give them what they want and they give up. But you have to keep trying and craft those prompts in different ways because every model is different. like prompting Google, this Gemma open source model is different than prompting Claude, for example. So these models here won't save these models. Again, Perplexity has it. I wouldn't share. I mean, they could use this information back. So I would be careful not to share anything that you wouldn't want to share, but it's the test, right? So you can test the models, the open source, and this is absolutely free. So if you don't want to use ChatGPT, you can use these models to kind of test something for that. So that's Perplexity. The other piece I'll show you is the Zapier integrations that I have. Real quick. How am I doing on time? Sorry,
It's 101 right now.
Okay.
So we should probably be moving to the conclusion and the Q&A session.
Awesome. So I'm just going to show you guys the Zapier since you guys talked about automations. Just really quick, because I know Jeff asked for how do I automate mundane tasks. So Zapier does cost, but I have a couple of Zaps. I have a walking Zap. I'll show you that. And this one is tied to my Notion account. So what happens here is I record a audio file while I'm walking and on my walks. I'll talk about different things. And I use OpenAI's Whisperer, so it listens to what I say. So it takes the file from Dropbox, it takes the audio recording, translates that into a transcription text, and then that text is then going into ChatGPT, and then that ChatGPT will create for me like notes and action items that I talk about during my walk, and that gets sent to my Notion page. And after it's sent to my Notion page, I get a Slack message saying that that operation is complete. So that is a day-to-day automation that I use every day, because, and to show you how that looks, I'll show you my Notion space. So it goes here, and these are my walking notes. So this was my testing one. I don't want to show you guys that one. Let's show you this one. So this was we were onboarding. Actually, not this one. Let's see. Sorry, don't want to share information. There. All right. So this was onboarding of a new employee. I was talking through it while I was on my walk. It gave me a summary of what I was talking about and gave me some action items that I need to focus on. But these integrations can be done for any use case that you might have. The goal is to start using it. Start using ChatGPT. Once you figured out how to use ChatGPT or any generative AI, then learn about the automations and what you can automate. There's just so much that I can't cover in the full 1 hour time slot here I have. But there's just so many. And my biggest advice to everyone is to start using it. Start building that trust. Understand how to communicate with it. Find the flaws of where it's not good, what it can do. And the other thing is, now that Jeff, I'm going to go ahead and announce. But
yeah, go ahead, Snehal.
I'm going to offer this is our brand new course. It's on AI and Agile project management, geared for project managers. We've done this private class many times, but for TalentCheetah, 50% off if you use the promo code TalentCheetah. It's a 1-day course, and I go over kind of in-depth prompts, use cases, how you can possibly set up an automation yourself using different tools. Zapier is not the only automation platform, and we'll go over kind of how you can use this to augment the work you do, so you can actually focus on different things. We've also included in the training a little bit of PMI Infinity's platform to kind of help kind of go through that and see what you can do there as well.
So I think I put the link to this Eventbrite. So anyone that wants to sign up for this, this is a special for today's, the people that are attending today's session. You'll get a 50% discount on taking the course. And Can you talk a little bit about the certification? It gives you Agile AI Project Management Cert, right?
Yeah, it does. It's a certification course. We're verified through Credly. You get a badge and a certification at the end. And it's really, again, it's the first of its kind that we're offering. And we're really focused. It's really geared towards project management and kind of figuring out, okay, how can I do a work breakdown? What can I, how can I configure prompts? How can I use Vision, if GPT-4 Vision, to kind of get, maybe you have a Gantt chart and you want to kind of say, ask questions, right? So we'll go through kind of how you can do that to help you in your day-to-day role, right? Day-to-day actions. And I think there's just so much that is possible today. And I'm just going to leave you with my conclusion. It's a call to action that this convergence of AI in general, it's not the distant future, but it's evolving. So embrace it proactively. The promise is by harnessing the strengths of both AI and Agile, and project management in this case, organizations can unprecedented innovation, efficiency, and user satisfaction. And we are seeing this across the board. I mean, if you're working for Microsoft, you're seeing it. Satya Nadella is the risk taker of the I would say, the decade, to be able to show what it means to gain those efficiencies in a strategic way. It's not just open, hey, let's go out and try this. I think, and the final thought I have is, as we stand in this pivotal juncture, it's not just about adapting, but pioneering this next era of development. And with that, I want to thank you all for having me today. I hope it was something that you could take away. I know it was a lot of information to digest. I will stick around if there's any questions.
Great. Thank you so much, Snehal.
Thank you.
I want to thank everyone for attending today. And like I said, this course is going to happen on March 29th. It's a one-day certification course, Agile AI Project Management.